Hi class, this is Professor Dixon-Hackey, and I wanted to walk you through your first Microsoft project. Now I know you've been doing training, so you should be kind of experts at it at this point and definitely have the hang of it. The projects are a little bit of a different animal, and there's a couple of areas where certainly I want to give you some guidance so that you don't have any hang-ups. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So hopefully this will jump on over. All right. So once we have that, I'm going to move us over into the actual kind of link or page that you're going to see. So what I'm looking at is essentially right here. It is due in a couple of days, but we've got that project 1A Word Module 5, creating a resume and sharing documents. I'm going to click this open. And a reminder that with the projects, you have up to 3 uploads, meaning you have up to 3 times that you can turn it in. Every time you kind of turn it in, you'll get a report that tells you if you made mistakes and what you need to fix. And we'll walk through that in just a minute. But when you get started, you're going to click on Start. And then over here on this left-hand side, lots of things to download with this first assignment. In fact, there's 3 support files. So if you notice, there's 1, 2, 3, that more you want to click on. We've got our instructions, the start file, and then all 3 of these. So I've already gone through and downloaded the instructions and the start file, but I want to show you a couple things. So let me go ahead and just kind of do this with you. So to start, our instructions here are always going to have a couple different sections. They've got the getting started, and then they have the actual project steps. Now, I want to be really clear that with this getting started, it's on every section, and you really want to pay attention to it. So not only is it going to tell you right down here that you have 3 support files that you have to have in order to complete the project, but up here, this is kind of the area that sometimes gets skipped by students, but it's really, I think, critical, and it's one of those kind of areas that I like to show you how to do. So you have to save the file with a 2 at the end instead of a 1. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you don't do it right, this will not upload into Cengage. Let me say that again. If you don't save your file name correctly, the way the system is asking you to, it will not upload and you will not receive credit for it. I want to be really clear, since I'm going through this and giving you an overview and orientation, and the instructions are listed on every single set of instructions that you receive on how to save this file. Not uploading it or not being able to isn't going to be considered a viable reason for an extension. Also, I want to be clear that I don't hand correct things. Everybody gets corrected on the same scale, which is through Cengage. So you have to set it up and do it right so that you get it into that Cengage system. So let me show you so that we all are comfortable with this process. So these are the instructions. Obviously, I want to go back in and then take a look at the actual start file, because that's what we need to save correctly. So it starts here with this SC and then WD. I'm going to click on it, and this is what you need to do. So watch carefully. We're going to go up here, and first of all, we're going to go to File and Save As. Okay, don't just click the save, because here's why. We want to have the control to be able to save this file, not only the way that we want to, but where we want to save it. So right now, OneDrive is where it's going to send it, and I don't want it there. That is going to send it to the cloud, and that's not going to help me. I want it on my personal computer. So I'm going to click on where it says OneDrive. It might say downloads. So for some of you, it might say downloads. That's okay. That's the same area that you need to click on. Wherever, whatever it says here with this folder, click on it and make sure that you change it to desktop. Okay, desktop. That's where you're going to save all of your files, including your support files. Now, in this file name box right here, we're going to look at everything that's listed. You don't want to touch any of this, including that underscore. So all the way to where your name is, and then the underscore, we leave that alone. Now, anything after, okay, anything after this underscore, including the following. It could be a 1. You might end up with a 1 and another 1 because you end up downloading it more than one time. Sometimes people end up with extra name or whatever behind it. Anything after that first underscore right here after your name, get rid of it. Then replace it with a 2. Okay? Be careful that you don't get rid of the underscore as well. But after that underscore, which is after your last name, get rid of anything behind that and then replace it with a 2. Click it with a save, or click save, excuse me. And now we should see it showing up here in that file name. I cannot emphasize how important that is. It is probably the #1 reason why students have problems uploading their file. They'll say, well, I changed it to a 2. But what they don't realize is that when they go back in there, they actually have extra letters and everything else that they did not delete out. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go back here, and all 3 of these support files I've already downloaded, but just make sure that you save them onto your desktop as well so they're easily accessed. Okay, so let's go into the actual file. So this file is a report. We've got several pages to it. What I want you to do, and this is kind of unique, is I'm going to have you go up here under the home ribbon, and we're going to go all the way over to this section, and we're going to click on this little backwards P. Now this is going to turn on what we call some non-printing characters, and these non-printing characters will not be visible if you essentially printed them out, but they are going to be helpful for you when you format your documents. So every time you see a P, that is going to represent every time that you've hit the enter key or what they consider to be a paragraph mark. So be mindful of that. And also if you're accidentally bumping the enter key or hitting the space key, that's important, because when you submit your assignment to Cengage, it is going to be able to detect all of those things. Any extra spaces, any extra enter keys will get counted or deducted in points. All right, so let's go back to the instructions. Starting here in the project steps, it tells us that we're working on this project, this report, and they want us to change the left and right margins to 0.8 inches, okay, 0.8 inches. So we've learned from our training that in order to do that, we need to go up here to layout. Now, before I do any of that, I want to just give you kind of a little bit of some guidance here. So a lot of times I find, and this is extremely human nature, but when you do the trainings or when students do them, sometimes we start to check out. We just kind of go through the motions and we're not necessarily retaining any of that information. But keep in mind that everything that you're doing in the training, you are going to have to then execute or show the system that you know how to do in a project like this. So if it were me, I would go in, and if I didn't know how to do a task right away the first time when I hit the apply, I would make a note of how to do it correctly, meaning I would take some notes while I'm doing the training. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back many times and review things. So the other place that you need to go to is your book. Now, sometimes students reach out to me, but the truth is all of the resources that you have are at your fingertips, and I'll show you why. So when we go over here on the screen, all the way to the right, we have our full book. Okay, that blue icon is right here. Go ahead and click on it, and then click on Table of Contents. Okay, Table of Contents. So it's that section right here. We're going to look for the Word section, so it's a little bit further down here. And since we're on Module 5, it's going to correlate with where the textbook is as far as Module 5. So we click on that. And now we've got this wonderful index on the front page of that chapter. And it's essentially hyperlinked to all the different types of tasks that we're going to demonstrate in that project. So we learned that we wanted to do something to change the margins. So guess what? We look for something that tells us, hey, how do I set custom margins? Right here. So I click on this, and this is a set of instructions that walks you through not the same exact project, but a similar one. And that essentially enables you then to see all the steps and examples of where you need to go to set custom margins. So once again, to find the answers to complete the project, you're going to either need to take really good notes in your trainings, or use your textbook because it's right here, and then use that textbook to really guide you and help teach you what it is that you need to do in order to execute the steps on the projects. So let's go back to the project. So we've learned, whether we've looked it up or whether we remember it and written it down from the trainings, that when we go in here, we can go into layout. So under the page setup section, we go to margins. And under margins, since it's not listed here, we are going to go to custom margins. So from here, since it's left and right, all we have to do is go into the left box and carefully get rid of everything all the way up to the dot and then add an 8. Same thing with the right, carefully get rid of everything up to the dot and then add an 8. Click on OK, and now we're going to see that it kind of fills that page a little bit better. All right, so pretty simple first step. From there, we're going to go to step 2. So it says on page 1, delete the content control displaying today's date, and then delete the blank paragraph that included the content control to avoid dating the report. So let's go back here for a second, and I want to show you something. But this is the content control right here. Do you see how it kind of grays out? That's what they're talking about. And then sometimes people ask me, well, what's the blank paragraph? What are they talking about? Well, right here, this is the blank paragraph. Okay, that's what they're identifying as, essentially that paragraph mark. So we want to make sure we get rid of everything. So highlight that first and then all the way over to the paragraph mark. Okay, and get rid of that. So that blank paragraph, that big P, should not be showing. Okay, that's what they're talking about. So that's essentially the difference, is when we turn on that show and hide, that helps us find those kind of invisible paragraphs, or what the computer interprets as paragraphs, because every time they see a P, they interpret then that's a paragraph. All right, a little bit different than how we interpret it, but again, that's the way the system works. From there, we're going to go in and move on to step 3. It asks us to type Elliott Reed and the company name content control. So this one's pretty easy. We just want to go down here where it says company name and replace it with Elliott Reed. Now, here's my cautionary kind of tale to you, is that sometimes we get going and we kind of don't realize that we're maybe going fast through these steps. Really watch your spelling, your spacing, your punctuation, double, triple check it, because the system will actually deduct points for that. So when you work through these activities, it's not just about what you're putting in, it's also your accuracy, and it's a little bit of a higher level than maybe the average user. So we want to just keep that in mind. Moving on to step 4, apply the basic elegant style set to use a standard style set for Elliott Reed reports. So what we're talking about here now is something that relates to the design, okay, to the design. Going back here, that means we'll probably go to this design ribbon. So up here in the design ribbon, we're going to start taking a look at, okay, so they want the basic, elegant, what was that? So we are going to look at all these different options here, but we're kind of lucky because it's pretty much going to be one of the first ones. It's not this one, but if we go down here and we kind of let it hover, notice that it's that one. Now, if you didn't see, I clicked on this little arrow here to open that up for me. And then I went down here and I found it. Now, depending on what version you have of Office 365, it might be in a slightly different area, but you should be okay. And another tool or tip that I would offer you is that for anybody who's using Macs, this is going to be a little bit different exercise, meaning that you're going to have some toolbars that are going to highlight kind of across the top that go a little bit further. Your file, home, and insert are going to be way at the top of your screen. Use those instead of the ones that are immediately above your ribbons. So that's just the tip I would offer you, because for people that are on Macs, everything's going to be just a little bit different. And so you just got to be cautious of that, that you're going to have to kind of interpret a little bit differently. So step 5, okay, this is the last step I'm going to do with you. The rest I'm going to allow you to kind of work through, because again, I want you to get that practice. This is, you know, you're going to learn by moving through these steps and then also working through the exercises. But what I want you to really look at on this one is that we're doing something a little different. We're actually creating some custom colors. So the first one that we want to do is we're going to create a customized set of theme colors named Elliott Reed, and we're going to use teal accent 6 as the accent 3 color. Okay, let's start with that. So in order to do this, we're still going to be staying in this theme section. And the themes themselves have a set of colors. Okay, so there's the color set. So that's where we're going to go for changing or customizing these color sets. Now, since it's none of these pre-functional or pre-kind of set kind of palettes, we go down to customize. And it said accent 3. So I'm going to go down here because this is the one we want to change. And we're going to click on this drop down. Now it's a teal accent 6. So I believe it's somewhere along here. That's turquoise, that's green. Oh gosh, their versions of teal are different to me. There we go. See, to me it looks green, but teal accent 6. So somewhere towards like the third from the right. And then we click on that. So that's the first thing we change. Now the second thing that they wanted us to change in these instructions, well, first of all, before I do that, I'm going to change this to Elliott. So this is where we would change the name, okay? And since it's not letting me go back to my instructions, I'm going to have to close it real quick. But green accent 4 as the hyperlink color, okay? Green accent 4 as a hyperlink color. So it'll just give me a chance to go back and show you one more time. So again, we're in the design ribbon, go to colors, and then we see, isn't that nice? We're going to go in here and we're going to edit it. So since I went in and already kind of started this, now I get to edit it. So edit, and over here, hyperlink right here. So green, oh gosh, of course I forgot. Accent, help me here. Your teacher's having a brain gap. Green accent 4, okay, goodness gracious. So right click, edit, and then for hyperlink, green accent, come on, 4. So right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th from the right. And now we can hit save. So that becomes our new theme color. So again, if we click on this, you can kind of see now we have this, new custom palette. It's only good though for this document. It doesn't follow us into any other documents. All right, so you can go through the rest of the steps on your own, but what I would show you is that when you're all done, we want to hit the save button. I want to just show you something. Some of you are going to have, depending on the kind of system you have, you're going to have this little auto save. I want to tell you that right away and on every document that you work on here, turn this off. Okay, that sounds a little strange because it seems like it would help us. It doesn't in this case, and here's why. If you turn autosave on and then you hit save, all of your changes will get pushed to the cloud. Okay, it'll get pushed to OneDrive. So what's happened in the past is that some of my students, they've done all of the adjustments, they've made the changes, and then what happens is they turn in the assignment not realizing that they have the first part done, but anything that's been like changed once they've started hitting this, if they have the autosave on, isn't in this core document, right? All the changes are on their OneDrive, but the beginning blank start file is on their desktop. Turn this off, and then you'll make sure that you have all your changes saved to the desktop. The other thing you can do, it's kind of a safe, fail-safe, is File, Save As, make sure that you've got it in the right spot. So when you're ready to get done, right, just go through those steps that you did in the very beginning all over again and hit save. Even if it tells you to replace the existing file, that's fine. I'd rather have you do it twice, one at the beginning and once at the end, and then know where your file is versus the other way around and lose things. So what you have to do is, in order to turn in the assignment, because that's what I'm going to show you next, we have to actually close this document. You don't have to close Word, just close the file that you're working on. If you have it open and you try to turn it in, it won't let you. Okay, it'll say error, or it'll give you some other message, but you can't turn in a file if you have it open. All right, so we already did this first box here. Now we're going to go to step 2, right? This column. Click on this box, and I'm going to go ahead and click on desktop. That's where I just saved the file that I was working on. So on my desktop, I'm going to go to this file, and I'm going to click open. Since I have everything saved correctly, and notice that this is literally what it's expecting as a file name, right? That's what it needs. Again, we don't add that .docx. Don't worry about it. It adds it automatically. In fact, if you try to type it in, it will actually create an error. I know, it's weird. It's one of those quirks. But here it is, okay? So now I'm going to say that I'm ready to go, even though I know I didn't complete everything. But I'm going to hit submit. And the green box means yay, it all worked. Okay, so there's 2 things here. First of all, it tells me I've only attempted once, which is just fine. And I've got a graded summary report, and I've got a study guide. So here's what I'm going to show you. Graded summary report is going to pop up. And when it's ready, I'm going to click on this. Okay. So this is going to run me through all the steps that I completed. It's going to tell me how many points I was awarded or how many I lost. And the cases where I maybe missed things, it's going to give me not just a red X, but an explanation of what I need to be doing. All right. So notice here, I didn't actually do this one. I probably missed this one, even though I was kind of trying to move through it quickly. But here it said that I didn't format using the basic elegant style sets. I also didn't create custom theme fonts, right? So I didn't go through that step. So it's really good to look at what it is that it's telling you you've got points off on, and that's fine. But again, when we go into this, make sure that you understand that sometimes you'll get partial points, sometimes you'll get all. Here's where it gets a little tricky. Okay, so listen carefully, because this is by far one of the things that can catch students off guard. So let's pretend that I typed Elliot Reed in the company name, and I said, okay, good. But then I come back to the report, and the report gives me 0 out of 0, or it gives me partial credit. And what it tells me is that I didn't enter it in the company name section, but I can see it there. Okay, I can clearly see that it's in front of me. The problem is that the system maybe is deducting points for spelling, for if you add an extra space, if you accidentally hit the period key and didn't mean to. But what happens in our brains is that we get so fixated on seeing that, well, I can see the names there, that we don't realize that we've done one of the other things. So spelling, spacing, and punctuation all will get counted against you. And here's the tricky part. So the computer system, Cengage, only has a limited language, meaning it will only have one error message that'll give it to you. So it will repeatedly give you this, you didn't enter in the text in the company name content control, right? It'll say something, although here I did obviously, but it'll say that you didn't. And so that's confusing. So here's my advice. If you can see that you entered in something or you changed something and it's physically in front of you, but you're still getting a message that is an error or that you got it wrong, carefully. And when I say careful, I mean look at it carefully, one letter at a time. Capitalization, spacing, punctuation. Most of the time, that is the reason that students are getting those error message or those deductions, even if they did a different part right, okay? What I always tell students is, and sometimes students will panic and ask me to look at it, but the truth is, most of those are easily fixed by you. It's just those small proofreading errors, right? 9 times out of 10. All right, so the other thing I want to show you that's extremely helpful, we have this graded summary report. Below it is the study guide. I love this thing. So the study guide is extremely helpful in that it has 2 options for us. So first of all, it lists every single kind of task that we're going to execute for that project. And what we want to do is understand that for each step, there's different things that we're learning or that we're showing that we've learned. So for step 1, it's going to have what we call remediation, and then we also have training. So the training, if I clicked on it, is essentially going to be just literally a point-free, all for you kind of thing, just little training. I'm just going to turn off the audio on this. But you can see that if I were to click on this, it would basically walk me through exactly what I've done in the past and what you've learned how to do now, which is either watch the training or if we wanted to practice or apply. Okay? That's the beauty of that. Now, here's the other part. If you went through a section and you're like, I know I did this right, I'm sure, but they're telling you, no, you did it wrong. The remediation is showing you what page. In fact, if I clicked on this, it would take me to the page in my book and show me what steps I need to use in order to create or execute this process. Okay? So if you don't get a good score in the first one or even the second one, there are things you can do. I tell students it doesn't, don't get caught up in if I didn't get 100% the first time. That's not what this is about. You're learning through this process. In fact, making the mistakes is part of the learning. So really use what you got in front of you. When or if you have questions, always remember my policy is be respectful. I know things can get frustrating and stressful. Try to redirect, that frustration as much as you can. And remember, everything is fixable. But most of the time, it's some of the things that we've talked about. Okay? All right, so hopefully that gives you a really good starting point. These are really things that I would recommend from this point on for any project. Thanks so much, everybody, and I look forward to continuing our studies on this set of topics.